Patrick Hicks Music Stories presents Every Grammys Ever, the 45th Annual Grammy Awards, February 23rd, 2003. For the first time tonight, the Grammys decided that they didn't really need a host. So they didn't have one, and they'll go hostless next year too. So tonight is another one of those years that is owned by one artist, and this is somebody who seems like they were grown in a lab specifically for the Grammys. This year, Norah Jones wins in every category she's nominated for. She has 5 nominations and 5 wins. She has a great voice. She makes pleasant, jazzy pop music that's perfect for listening to at Starbucks. In an era when illegally downloading music is at an all-time high and actual album sales were low, this is an album that actually sold CDs, probably because they sold the CD at Starbucks. And she's not an old famous musician from the 60s, but her dad was, so you know the Grammys loved that. Norah Jones almost pulls off the clean sweep tonight, something that at this point still had only been done once by Christopher Cross, and she does win in all 4 categories, but she didn't write her big hit Don't Know Why. That's actually a cover of a song by a guy named Jesse Harris.
Waited till I saw the sun. Don't know why I didn't come.
So that song wins Song of the Year because it was a hit for Norah Jones, but the Grammy goes to Jesse Harris, so it doesn't quite count as her winning in all 4 categories. But still a pretty dominating performance for her tonight. In Best New Artist, she beats out Ashanti, Michelle Branch, John Mayer, and Avril Lavigne. Avril Lavigne is the other big nominee tonight. She tied Norah Jones with 5 nominations. But she doesn't win any, and actually she doesn't win any Grammys in her whole career. She's got 5 tonight, she gets another 3 next year, and then that's it for her. It's just a bad night for Avril all around. She also has a really cringy moment where she mispronounces David Bowie's name.
David Bowie for Slow Burn.
Her song Complicated, which she wrote with the songwriting team The Matrix, is also nominated for Song of the Year, along with Bruce Springsteen's The Rising, Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles, and Alan Jackson's Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning, the song that he performed at last year's awards, but of course the winner is Don't Know Why. In Record of the Year, you see 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton, Without Me by Eminem, Dilemma by Nelly and Kelly Rowland, and Nickelback's How You Remind Me. This is just disgusting. Of all the great 90s rock and grunge bands that never got any Grammy nominations, Nickelback gets a Record of the Year nomination. I think there's a trend lately to go back and reevaluate Nickelback and say, oh, they actually weren't that bad. Yes, they were. They were that bad. If there is anything that you can take away from this series, it is that Nickelback did not deserve to be nominated for any Grammys. Luckily, they never won any. They have 5 nominations in their career and 0 wins. But again, the winner in that category was Norah Jones for Don't Know Why.
I waited till I saw the sun. I don't know why I didn't come. I left you by the house of fun. I don't know why I didn't come.
Speaking of Eminem, he gets another Best Rap Album win tonight. His album The Eminem Show wins in that category, beating out Nelly's Nellyville, but in Best Male Rap Solo Performance, Nelly wins for Hot in Her over Eminem's Without Me. And yes, that is Best Male Rap Solo Performance. There's a new category this year. For this year and next year, they separated Best Rap Solo Performance into male and female. So Nelly wins in the male category, and in the female category, Missy Elliott wins for the song Scream, aka Itchin'. Then in that fairly new category, Best Rap/Sung Collaboration, Nelly wins for Dilemma with Kelly Rowland. And in Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group, Outkast wins for The Whole World featuring Killer Mike. In the rock categories, we see wins for old Grammy favorites like Sheryl Crow and Bruce Springsteen, and also Foo Fighters. This is only their 3rd win. They had 2 back at the 43rd Annual Grammy Awards. They win tonight for Best Hard Rock Performance for All My Life. And they're going to go on to be one of the winningest rock bands in history. They'll eventually have 15 wins and 34 nominations. Also in the rock category, in the Best Rock Instrumental category, the Flaming Lips get their first Grammy win. Also in the R&B world, Usher gets his 2nd Grammy win for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance for the song You Don't Have to Call. His first win was last year for the song You Remind Me. So any song title with the letter U, Usher does really well. And maybe the best part of the whole night for me is that they did a tribute to Joe Strummer, who had just passed away. It featured Bruce Springsteen, Elvis Costello, Tony Kanal from No Doubt, Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters, Steven Van Zandt. It was awesome. And the nominees for Album of the Year are Norah Jones for the album Come Away With Me, Bruce Springsteen for The Rising. This was his album that was a response to 9/11. This is the first awards to take place in New York since 9/11, so this was a big deal at the time. The Chicks get another Album of the Year nomination for their album Home. Nelly is nominated for Nellyville. And then, hey, we actually get 2 hip-hop albums nominated for Album of the Year. Eminem is back with The Eminem Show. Now, before we get to the winner, let's talk about some albums from 2002 that were not nominated. Since we already mentioned them, let's talk about the Flaming Lips. Their album, Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, was a huge critical success, and relatively successful commercially for them. This was the follow-up to their 1999 album, The Soft Bulletin, which also had been a huge critical success. And I'm kind of surprised that the Flaming Lips didn't have more Grammys love, since they had a similar trajectory as other Grammy favorites like Beck and Radiohead. All 3 had a big, kind of funny single in the 90s, Loser, Creep, and She Don't Use Jelly. There weren't any other hits on those respective albums, and a lot of people thought that they might have been one-hit wonders. And then they all turned into critical darlings who made experimental, interesting, boundary-pushing albums. But the Flaming Lips just never really got the recognition that those other artists did. They just have 3 wins out of 6 nominations in their career. Now, maybe even a bigger snub is the Wilco album, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. This album has a fascinating story of almost not being released, the band being dropped from their record label over it, them having to put out the album themselves, and then it turning into one of the most critically acclaimed albums of the decade. But it gets absolutely nothing at the Grammys, which is kind of strange because Wilco did have Grammy nominations before. At the 41st and 43rd Annual Awards, they were nominated, but in Best Contemporary Folk Album for their project Mermaid Avenue that they did with Billy Bragg, which was putting music to old Woody Guthrie lyrics. So the Grammys knew who Wilco were, but somehow decided not to nominate Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. They will get 1 Grammy later on, but that's it. 1 Grammy out of 7 nominations. You've also got the Interpol album, Turn on the Bright Lights, Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf, and You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead with Source Tags and Codes. Then you have a bunch of interesting stuff happening in English music that is being ignored. You've got the Streets with original pirate material, and the Libertines with Up the Bracket. No nominations for either of them ever. And last, this one is pretty insane given how big this album was in 2002, Clips with Lord Willin'. Clips does get their first Grammy nomination tonight in the Best Rap/Sung Collaboration category for Like I Love You, and that's it. No nominations for the album, no nominations for the song Grindin', no wins in their career, no other nominations ever. Pusha T as a solo artist will go on to get 6 more nominations, but he also doesn't have any wins. And the Grammy goes to
Norah Jones.
Norah Jones has Come Away With Me. She owned the night, so it wasn't really a big surprise here, and it's not a terrible win. It's a good album, she's a good artist, and it did sell a ton of copies, like 27 million copies worldwide, so it's a respectable pick. And even though she might have a little bit of the Christopher Cross peaking too early thing, she never quite had the success of this debut album. She has had a lot of success since then. She's had a good career. And honestly, the best albums of the year weren't even nominated, so I think this is fine. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time for the highs and lows of the 46th Annual Grammy Awards in 2004.
Tall buildings shake, voices escape, singing sad, sad songs.